in the quite spectacular way that Vice President J.D. Vance did last year, where he rocked up and basically said, you're letting your countries go to the dogs because you're letting in too many immigrants and you are suppressing free speech. Marco Rubio striking a very diplomatic tone, massive relief here, and he is saying that they want Europe to be strong. And I think that's the central message from Sir Keir Starmer's speech, that the UK and Europe as a whole have got to step up. He talked about the fact that we've taken peace for granted because war has been something that happens a long, long way away. But he says that Russia could attack a NATO ally in this decade, so in the next 4 or 5 years, and we must be ready to fight. Well, would we be ready to fight? I think military bosses will tell you would only last a few days at the moment. He talked a lot, didn't he, about deeper relationships with other European countries. He said we need to build a joint European defence industry, and Europe needs to embark upon huge industrial renewal. That, of course, will bring a lot of jobs. He said, let's not play politics about this, it's too important. I think that might have been a veiled pop at the EU. They've got this SAFE programme, security for Europe, and at the moment they do not want Britain to have access to that, or if we do, we're going to have to pay through the nose. So he's talking about all the things that we are doing, doubling the number of Royal Marines in the north, talking about the fact that we are taking Arctic security more seriously, and also, of course, taking a pop at Reform and the Green Party, saying that they are soft on Russia and weak on NATO. I think certainly Nigel Farage would have something to say in response to that.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine Forster, and welcome to Saturday Morning Live, because it's 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 14th of February, and we are live across the United Kingdom.
Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet. Now that means being bolder. It means putting away petty politics and short-term concerns. It means acting together.
Yes, speaking at the Munich Security Conference this morning, the Prime Minister says the road ahead is straight and clear, that Britain must be ready to fight.
Well, that followed the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio recognising the historic significance of the alliance between Europe and America that saved the world from past threats, and here's hope that it will continue.
It is our preference, and it is our hope, to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. For the United States and Europe, we belong together.
Elsewhere, the Home Office has been accused of lacking the resources to deliver Nigel Farage's pledge to deport 500,000 illegal migrants if he became Prime Minister, insiders have told GBNews.
Well, despite plans for detention centres and expanded charter flights, sources have claimed that the Home Office, which is already facing budget cuts, may not have the capacity to carry out reforms Operation Restoring Justice.
And Peter Mandelson has been called to Congress to answer questions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But will he reveal all?
And in sports, it's the Calcutta Cup day at Murrayfield as Scotland host England in one of rugby's fiercest rivalries. Pride, history and Six Nations momentum are all on the line.
And love is in the air as today marks Valentine's Day. Now, we all celebrate differently, from a cosy night in to an extravagant romantic getaway. We'll be hearing from locals in Britain's most romantic destinations. The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. Your weekend starts here.
Well, I have to say that speech from Keir Starmer was a little more interesting, perhaps, than I was expecting it to be. It was a bit odd, I thought, coming off the back of Marco Rubio's speech, where he was talking about essentially the US and Europe being allies after all, after quite a tetchy year or so between the Donald Trump administration and the EU. And then Keir Starmer sort of stands up and says that the UK needs to draw away from the US. He also said that there need to be a closer relationship with Europe. I'm really fascinated to see how that'll go down domestically.
And a big announcement, Olivia, that we're going to have an aircraft carrier posted into the high north, the North Sea, the North Atlantic, later this year, clearly reacting to the pressure that Donald Trump puts on Greenland. He's also talking about how we're not at a crossroads. There's a clear and straight path we'll need to follow, but all of that needs money. This is a Prime Minister who can't convince his backbenchers to cut welfare spending. How on earth is he going to find cash? You know, the tens of billions of pounds that are needed to rebuild a military that has just 70,000 regular soldiers. That is not a military fit for war.
Well, exactly. Such a showy show of strength in the high north Keir Starmer's talking about, but that's not going to be backed up with the kind of money that the armed forces needs. 2.5% of GDP in 2027. The armed forces need that money right now.
Need it yesterday.
Need it yesterday, exactly. And they need 3%, not 2.5%. That's what experts have been telling us. We'll be hearing from lots of them over the course of this programme.
I want to hear from you as well. gbnews.com/your say. Get in touch for all that we are covering today. Well, to our top story this morning now, because Keir Starmer has addressed the Munich Security Conference, where he said that the UK needs deeper links with the EU and that Europe must be ready to fight.
As Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet. Now, that means being bolder. It means putting away petty politics and short-term concerns. It means acting together to build a stronger Europe and a more European NATO. Now, we are not the Britain of the Brexit years anymore.
Well, that follows US Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying that the US needs to continue its strong relationship with Europe.
Under President Trump, the United States of America will once again take on the task of renewal and restoration, driven by a vision of a future as proud, as sovereign, and as vital as our civilization's past. And while we are prepared, if necessary, to do this alone, it is our preference and it is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. For the United States and Europe, we belong together.
Well, joining us now is our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who's live in Munich. Catherine, good morning. A big statement, a big speech from Sir Keir Starmer there, who's always seeking to act significantly on the world stage, but nothing by way of major policy announcements, particularly for the armed forces that need that extra cash.
No, that announcement, as you said, about the aircraft carrier in the high north, they're stressing they're also going to double the number of Royal Marines, I think from 1,000 to 2,000 that are on exercise in Norway in the coming years. But all this is going to take time. A lot of big rhetoric, wasn't there, talking about the fact that leaders are often too slow to rearm until it is too late, and the need to rearm and the need for industrial renewal and building, he said, a joint European defence industry. A couple of problems there. First problem is that SAFE, this rearmament programme that the EU has embarked upon, at the moment they're not really keen to let us in on that unless we pay huge amounts of money. I think when he mentioned petty politics, that might have been a little dig at the EU over that. But a lot of rhetoric, very clear that he says we have to get closer to Europe on this, and that we've got to stand on our own 2 feet, Europe as a whole. That's something that Marco Rubio echoed. I think a real relief here in Munich that he was so much more conciliatory, so much more diplomatic in his tone, that JD Vance last year really upset European leaders. But I think Europe is finally waking up. It's taken, as Ursula von der Leyen said, some shock therapy. There's been quite a lot of shocks for Europe. Russia invading Ukraine. I mean, you could say Russia invading Crimea, but we didn't pay enough attention to that. Then Donald Trump coming in saying, you need to pay 5% or you can't rely on us being there for you. And then, of course, this year, Donald Trump going, we need Greenland, we want to get it, we're going to take it one way or another. There are negotiations happening here on the sidelines of the conference between America and Denmark on that very thorny issue. So real pressure on Europe to step up, and also I thought a real pop at the end of the speech domestically back to people thinking of voting for reform or for the Greens. He said that either party would be soft on Russia and weak on NATO, though Nigel Farage, I think, would want to say that reform have long been saying we need to up our defence spending. Of course, easy to say it, but quite painful and expensive to actually do it.
Well, indeed. Thank you so much, Catherine Forster, for joining us, and we look forward to hearing more from you throughout the show. As Catherine was saying there was so much domestic politics in that speech, such an obvious pop at his rivals on the domestic stage, Reform and the Greens, essentially saying that Labour's the only serious player. That was the argument during the election, and he's bringing it back. Isn't
it curious that we've had that very global speech from Marco Rubio, and then Keir Starmer using his speech sort of, as you say, take a pop at his political rivals. Our colleague Mark White earlier described it as a parochial
A little bit
speech.
parochial, that's exactly the word I was thinking of.
As the whole of the conference is focusing on this threat from Russia, and it is a very real threat, of course, it's sort of using it to point jabs at reform. I mean, very interesting to hear what Nigel Farage says later about that accusation that he is soft on Russia. Clearly sees that as a weakness in the reform camp. I wonder what the reform camp think of that. Looking forward to that reaction for sure. I think there's an element of wanting to look powerful on the global stage for Keir Starmer. It's quite convenient for him to be over there rather than over here, facing the very difficult problems back home. Well, joining us now is the defence analyst and former British Army officer, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford. I mean, what did you make of that? There is so much there about how dangerous the world has become, how we need to spend more faster, and yet Keir Starmer is talking about 2.5% of GDP by 2027/2028, I think. Is that good enough? Why no concrete announcements this morning?
Good morning. Well, I agree with you, and I agree very much with what much of what your correspondent in Munich has already said on this. I think that the old Chinese proverb applies here, loud thunder but few raindrops, insofar as the rhetoric has been impressive, but the actual practical implications have yet to be addressed. It's no secret, and I've said it many times before, that Britain's armed forces have been underfunded for decades, and it's going to take some time to build them back up to something which is more applicable in today's renewed and more dangerous international situation, if you like. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it's certainly not going to happen with 2.5% of GDP being spent by 2027, as you have just said. It needs to be 3% now and 5% by 2030, in my opinion. But I don't think that the Labour government under Starmer is going to be prepared to take the radical steps that will be required to achieve that.
Well, Stuart, we've heard the Prime Minister taking those barbs towards Reform and the Green Party this morning, saying that they are soft on Russia, soft on NATO. I think that's directed at the Greens, if not outright opposed. But isn't the fact of the matter that Sir Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister now, and when he talks about the threats to the country, he has the capability to decide and bring in actions to deal with them. One of the key threats is mass immigration, destabilising our communities, but doesn't seem to be delivering enough to deal with that problem, instead talking about how other political parties wouldn't be as good as dealing with those threats as he is.
Yes, I mean, the classic deflection really, isn't it, from answering the question, is to go elsewhere and point out what other people won't be able to do or might not be able to do. I think the real problem is that there is a marked unwillingness or inability to fund the armed forces properly, because that would mean either raiding the welfare budget, which I will remind you is about between 5 and 6 times the annual UK defence budget, or indeed increasing taxation. Without either of those measures, I can't see where the money is going to come from to bring Britain's armed forces back to where they should be.
Starmer saying there about America, because he said at one point that the lesson of history is that as Europe we must stand together. Surely the lesson of history is that Europe desperately needs America's help and is almost nothing without America. What kind of friendship does he want with America moving forwards?
Well, I think he very much wants to maintain what is called over here the special relationship with the USA, although having lived in the USA, I can tell you that not many people that I met recognised it on that side of the Atlantic. The overall theme, though, remains that America wants Europe to take a bigger responsibility in terms of defence and security. And I think they're absolutely right. European states, including Britain, have been riding on the coattails, if you like, of the US military might. And the Trump administration signalled last year, when J.D. Vance had his rant at the same conference as we're at today, and on which Rubio has now slightly backpedaled. But the truth of the matter is the USA expects Europe to do more in its own defence and security, but that the USA is not thinking of abandoning Europe altogether.
I wouldn't say, Stuart, that he backpedaled. I mean, all those criticisms that J.D. Vance made, they very much still stand from the Trump administration's perspective, that the continent is making big mistakes on mass immigration, which was mentioned by Marco Rubio. And also, we heard J.D. Vance talking about free speech last year, a concern that the Trump administration has continued to raise about Europe. But I want to ask you about the situation that we heard from Starmer with regards to the EU, how we have very many different main battle tanks, different fighter jets, different variants across the continent, and the United States has one main battle tank, has a more consistent number of assets. Is saying we have to be closer in our ties with the EU. What do you make of that from a defence and security perspective, that we could be sharing more equipment?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. And if you want to use the example of main battle tanks, I've been saying for 20 years that we should have been fielding the German Leopard 2 tank, which is, you know, in many aspects superior to what we have domestically. But other organisations, industry, etc., have lobbied otherwise, and so far they have been successful. I think the other thing we're going to see is increased coordination and cooperation between the armed forces of individual European nations. It does happen already, of course, both within NATO and out with NATO, if you like. But I think we're going to see more of that in the future. And Starmer did hint that the planned deployment of the UK carrier group to the North Atlantic and High North, which he announced this morning, will be in conjunction with allies.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your insight there. That was Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford. Thank you for joining us. And we're joined now by the political commentator Andy Williams. Obviously, that speech from Keir Starmer it felt like a bit of a domestic speech masquerading as a global speech. Very clear pops at his two main rivals in the UK, Reform and the Greens, talking about how neither of them take NATO seriously. Yep. I think Nigel Farage would very much attest that he does take defence seriously and has been calling for higher defence spending. Do you think that was a fair accusation from Keir Starmer?
Well, he's been calling for higher defence spending, but actually, I think he's been very, very close to Donald Trump, who I think has created more global instability than many world leaders for a very long time, certainly more than many presidents of the United States. Not a friend of NATO, that's for sure. I don't think Reform is serious about defence. I don't really know where they stand, apart from the fact they've been a bit friendly to Putin. So I don't think it is an unfair accusation. As for the Greens, I mean, the Greens are a joke when it comes to the international stage. The Greens, I think, are the most dangerous force in the whole of British politics. I think it's a phenomenon that is short-lived and won't last. What I think is odd, though, is that he is using this big speech at this big moment at the Munich Security Conference to talk about Reform and the Greens. Neither of them are the official opposition. They've 10 MPs between them. And if I was Keir Starmer and I was resetting my strategy for the 10th time, I'd be going, actually, why are we talking about either of these parties? Let's crack on and actually focus on delivering. It's very tactical. It's very Keir Starmer.
I've said I think both the Trump camp and the Green camp would push back against what you said there.
I'm sure they would.
Particularly, well, because I think I will as well, because you said that Trump's created some wild amounts of global instability, more than recent world leaders. War in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, destabilised Syria, war in Ukraine. None of that happened or started under Donald Trump's watch. So I think, just frankly, I don't think that's a fair claim. So, and also on the Green point, they would say that they want to sort of get rid of NATO and Britain, don't they want to include the global south, whatever that means, as part of their security arrangement? But let's move away from that. Let's ask about what Sir Keir Starmer's talking about security today. He's talking a big game, but obviously there's no numbers behind what he's saying. He can't do that, Andy, because he's not got the money to do it because of his own poor decisions previously. He's not cut welfare. He's been bullied by his own backbenchers and indecision through very quickly changing his mind whenever a bit of pressure comes along. He's got no room to manoeuvre with because he hasn't built the political capital to do it.
It's very hard to disagree with anything you've just said.
That's what I like to hear from Randy. That's what I like to hear.
You're totally right. He's talking a good game. He's saying we're going to spend, 35 billion on defence a year. And absolutely, the first thing is that we have to get our house in order economically. The failure to cut spending is an enormous failure. Now, it is one he's inherited, and I know people hate hearing it, but we have to come back to the fact that there was 14 years of disaster and of overspending and of complete mess created by the Tories. Having said that, you're right, even trying to cut $5 billion on welfare, they couldn't do it. Right. They need to go way, way, way further than that and really, really tackle the bloated state. Taxes are going up and up and up. So, yeah, these numbers that they're throwing out, there's actually no plan to deliver on that level of spending. And I think, well, they have to be honest with the British people about the trade-offs. Either we're going to pay more tax, we're going to cut spending. Which one is it? Or is it a combination of the two?
I think Keir Starmer needs to be honest with his backbenchers too, and I wonder if that speech was softening up the backbench a little bit, talking about the importance of defence, so that maybe at some point down the line he can try again and push through those welfare reforms in the hope that backbenchers will understand. But isn't it an extraordinary situation? A Prime Minister who won such a massive majority just a year and a half ago, having to try and wheedle with his backbenchers in this way.
I think in an ideal world he'd have won a smaller majority. I actually think having that massive majority has been a problem because there's such a huge caucus of the left and the hard left who are holding him to ransom. And if I was him, and it's easy to say sitting here at this desk versus in number 10, I would say, do you know what? I'm going to crack on without you. Forget it. And if you want to throw me overboard, fine. And maybe they will. But actually, you can't govern by being beholden to backbenchers. It's easy to forget, but when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, it wasn't as though there were 400 Blairite MPs. It was the same situation, and he just made the argument and bulldozed through.
OK, Andy Williams, thank you very much for your time this morning. Olivia, a lot of what he said there is absolutely spot on. He is in such a crisis, Keir Starmer, because he hasn't made these decisions. He hasn't given himself sort of the bedrock to push forward and make these arguments and get more money for defence. At some point, push needs to come to shove. He needs to go for it.
Exactly, and he's just sort of paralysed over here in the UK. I thought as well that speech was making a play for letting him be Prime Minister for a little bit longer. We've had 4 Prime Ministers since 2022. You could argue that level of churn makes it impossible to have any kind of coherent defence policy. And I think that's the argument that Keir Starmer is subtly trying to make. Keep me in charge and at least I'll be able to do something.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you for joining us, Andy Williams. And still to come, we'll be speaking to campaigner Sarah Hope and her work for instant support for road crash victims after her tragic story 19 years ago.
But next, we'll bring you the latest analysis, of course, from Sir Keir Starmer's speech this morning in Munich. Lots to dive into there. You're watching Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. See you in a moment.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I will show on-day release from the Stormtrooper factory in Drusillus Park in the south of England. And can you guess who I'm here to see? No, it's not this old grey grizzly chap. In fact, regular viewers of the show will know that I am Britain's biggest beaver lover. And it turns out I'm not the only one. Yes, a new rewilding campaign has been launched, and up and down the country, people are coming out to support it. So I'm here to find out more. Mark, are you the beaver expert here at Drusillus?
I guess I could be. I'm the zoo manager, so I'm the most senior figure in the zoo. I've been working in zoos for over 34 years. So my responsibility is the management and the welfare of the plus 800, 900 animals that we have in the park.
All right, well, that's a lot of animals, but tell me, please, about your beaver.
So the beavers are particularly special. We have had beavers in the collection for 35, 40 plus years. They're hugely popular with our visitors. They're hugely popular within our industry. Professionals alike like to come to Drusillus to see the beavers.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie and Olivia.
Right, we are joined in the studio by Jennifer Powers and Andy Williams, because we're going to be going through the top stories of today. And of course, there's only one story in town at the moment, and that is the speech that Keir Starmer's just made in Munich. Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. We've heard a lot of Andy already, actually, this morning. But I want to talk to you about the political angle that we've heard from the Prime Minister this morning, taking a domestic dig at two rivals, at Reform and the Green Party, saying they're soft on Russia and going to be weak on NATO. Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
I have to say, I thought the Prime Minister's speech was the wrong message to the wrong audience. I was a bit taken aback about the smallness of what he was saying. It was as if he was trying to repeat what he did in the chamber and what he does in domestic media in terms of painting this bogeyman of the far right and the far left. Having said that, there is reason to fear the Greens being in power from a defence perspective because of their calls to remove US bases from British soil, because of their desire to unwind NATO and scrap Trident. So it's a legitimate criticism of the Greens.
But not at the Munich Security Conference.
Not at the Munich Security
Conference. Taking a pop at Zach Polanski at that moment.
Yeah, I just thought it was a curious message in that atmosphere, and I also thought it belied a lack of confidence.
Did it look desperate to you in a sense?
Well, I think it showed what is lacking at the heart of Stammerism.
I'm really interested in that Brexit line, that Britain is not the Britain of the Brexit years anymore. A couple of years ago, Keir Starmer wouldn't have had the guts to say that. He was trying to paint himself as a bit of a Brexiteer. But now he seems to think, at least, that there is an appetite in the country for closer ties with Europe. Do you think he's right? Do you think the wars of the Brexit years are buried to the extent that you can have this conversation?
I wish they were, but the fact that Reform are topping the polls shows that they're not. Now, I think setting out a sensible approach to a closer relationship with Europe is absolutely right. Most people, most sensible, logical, rational people can see that Brexit's been a disaster. I mean, it really, really has. Economically, it absolutely has. There is no doubt about it. It's not to say it's been unequivocally a disaster. There have been benefits, and we've got the trade deal with the US and la la la. But fundamentally, it's been a bad thing, and I think everyone can see that. And if you look at the polling, it says that. But it's not about setting out an approach to say we're going to go back into the European Union. It's about saying we need to have a sensible relationship on trade with our closest neighbours and allies. And of course, we should be moving more closely to them economically, because otherwise, you know, what are we doing? It's the biggest lever we can pull for our economy. So I think that's right. The challenge is, of course, Starmer is seen, rightly, because he was, as an enormous Europhile. And I don't know, that plays well with a section of the electorate, but when you're combating or trying to combat reform, it's a big challenge.
What did we have moved past the Brexit era, in the sense that I think reforms ahead in the polls, not because of Brexit, but because of the challenges the country faces and the lack of answers coming from the establishment party.
That's why Brexit happened, Jennifer, isn't it? Brexit was actually not because people had a strong view about the European Union. It was because they didn't like the status quo.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, we don't need to relitigate Brexit wars, but I have to take issue with the fact that everyone can see Brexit has been a mistake. Has been. Well, that's fine. That's your perspective. We're here to debate the issues. I would say that one has to take a very long-term view. We won't really know, for 50 or 100 years, potentially, whether it's a success. And also, it was never just about economics. It was also about sovereignty and power. So putting that to one side, though, going back to your question around the speech itself, there was a little bit about Europe and closer ties, but I didn't hear a whole piece about what it means to be a middle-sized power in this new geopolitical reality. So instead of attacking domestic rivals, what is his view of how Britain, maintains itself, promotes our national interests in this new system?
Jennifer,
I heard a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of specifics.
Well, he did say he was going to deploy a carrier strike group to the high north, into the North Atlantic, dealing with the threat that Russia poses in that area.
And that's welcome.
Of course, the issue in Greenland there. Clearly, that's an example of a regional power working alongside the US and Canada to promote NATO's...
I would agree with that, but it's almost as if that is reactive to something that's happened, and he's said, oh, yes, us too, we'll send some people, we'll help. What is his proactive view? What is his vision for Britain in this new geopolitical reality?
And do you think there's a bit of an element of that being a very showy element of, showboating Britain's military power, while actually not really putting very much money behind what he's saying? He said that we need to spend faster. He's talking about 2.5% by 2027. Do you think that in the coming weeks we're going to have to see some kind of a change of policy from Keir Starmer? Are we going to see a big defence announcement soon? Because to me, that's what it sounded like he was laying the ground for. But where does he have the money to do it?
I don't think he knows. And I think Jennifer's right. He doesn't have a view on many things, actually. But certainly he doesn't have a sort of big strategic perspective on how Britain should behave in the world in 2026.
I mean, it's remarkable how many commentators are getting quotes from senior number 10 aides and Labour officials saying that the guy doesn't really have a perspective on this. He can be swayed quite easily. And I suppose, Jennifer, one of the concerns to that point is when it comes to defence spending, when it comes to this next step, he's not laid the groundwork in terms of making the argument. We haven't heard enough about the threats to Britain for him to then convince the public that this is a step that's necessary. He hasn't developed that narrative. It's a bit late to do it now.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's a really good point. And he doesn't do that across a whole range of issues. I mean, if we look at domestic policy, he doesn't lay the ground for welfare cuts. He doesn't make the case, and then he runs away. And likewise with defence, it's been rhetorical and at a very high level, but it's not been, okay, what are the troop numbers going to look like? How are we going to reform procurement of defence? Etc.
It's all very reactive.
It's very reactive.
Well, nice to get some agreement on that panel. Thank you, Jennifer Powers and Andy Williams. Still to come, we'll be speaking to campaigner Sarah Hope and her work for instant support for road crash victims after her tragic story 19 years ago.
But first, let's cross over to Bethany Elsey, who has all of your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has urged Europe to be ready to fight and do whatever it takes to protect our values. Addressing around 50 world leaders at the Munich Security Conference, Keir Starmer said the Brexit days are gone, insisting there's no British security without Europe.
We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, If necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life. And as Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet.
President Donald Trump says the world's largest aircraft carrier has been deployed to the Middle East as the White House maintains pressure on Iran to make a deal on its nuclear program. And Matt Weston has made history becoming the first British man to win gold in the skeleton at the Winter Olympics in Italy, also securing Team GB's first medal of this Games. You're up to date. I'll have a full roundup for you at 11 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thanks, Bethany. Up next on Saturday Morning Live, we'll be speaking to our sports correspondent, Aidan McGee, who's talking us through the upcoming Six Nations clash. It's the Calcutta Cup, England v Scotland up in Edinburgh.
And we'll also be speaking to the tireless campaigner Sarah Hope about her work for road safety, road traffic victims. She's the wife of our political editor, Christopher Hope, and she'll be sharing her very tragic and moving story with us.
Yeah, a member of the GB News family. We'll have her in the studio very shortly. Stay with us here on Saturday Morning Live.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Happy Valentine's Day. Dry and sunny for many of us, but the dry weather won't last all that long. The next batch of rain and hill snow is on the way overnight tonight. It is chilly out there, risk of ice first thing, as well as quite a widespread rural frost. That should melt away, though, by lunchtime to leave many of us with a fairly fine day, particularly across eastern areas. That's where the sunshine's going to be the longest lived. Further west, the sunshine will turn hazier as the day goes on. That's ahead of this weather front. And highs of around 5 or 6 degrees for most of us. It's not going to feel too bad in the sunshine, though, particularly across more eastern areas. But the cloud will thicken as the night goes on, particularly across more western areas. Across the east, though, the far northeast of Scotland, an early frost under those clearer skies will develop. Further south across parts of northeastern England as well, it will be a chilly night. And across parts of Northern Ireland, that rain already falling as snow to higher levels through this evening. That rain will push into parts of Wales, southwestern England later on in the night. And for many of us, it will be a cloudy and relatively cold night. And as that rain continues its journey eastwards, falling into that colder air, it brings a risk of snow to low levels across northern areas, 1 to 3 centimetres accumulating, but the snow will turn to rain by the morning as milder air is moving in behind it. So although it is a cold start to the night, behind it we'll see temperatures rise above 0 by Sunday morning as clearer skies and some blustery showers spread in from the west, but still a risk of some snow, perhaps some travel disruption first thing on Sunday morning. But as I said, that risk is only very short-lived as it does turn somewhat milder, at least above 0 by Sunday lunchtime. And behind it, lots of showers moving in, some fairly unsettled weather. So a much wetter day to come on Sunday compared to Saturday. So do make the most of the sunshine today if you can. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live.
Yes, we're joined now by Sarah Hope, a campaigner for incident support for road crash victims after her own traumatic story. She launched her TfL incident support line, the Sarah Hope line, which will mark its 10-year anniversary on Monday, with Sir Sadiq Khan and Chair of the Transport Committee, Ruth Cadbury, MP. Sarah, thank you so much for being here in the studio with us. Sorry, I know this must be a difficult thing to talk about, but could you just quickly run us through what led you to set up this fantastic movement?
Well, I was a victim of a road crash in April 2007. It was a bus, and I was in Mortlake, South London, with my mother Elizabeth and my daughter Pollyanna, who's only 2 at the time. And the bus, instead of turning right into the bus depot, ploughed onto the pavement at a terribly ferocious speed. And sadly, my mother didn't survive her injuries. Pollyanna lost her leg, and I suffered terrible injuries, and I couldn't help because I was under a bus.
So, an appalling, traumatic incident.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you were trying to turn that horror into something positive that you can now do for other people who are enduring similar struggles.
There's not enough understanding out there that road crime, this is the campaign, road crime needs to be treated as real crime. Because we are victims of crime, but the government doesn't seem to see that, and people seem to see road crashes as inevitable. But they're not. They shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be driving criminally, and we've got to raise awareness of the trauma that road crime causes. So the reason I really set up the TfL Sarah Hope line was so the crash happened in 2007, but I met Boris Johnson when he was the mayor, and he asked me if TfL or Metro Line had ever apologised. And I said, no, they haven't. And he set about arranging a meeting that happened really quickly, actually. And at that meeting, I said, they said they were terribly sorry about what had happened. And I said, yes, well, sorry must mean sorry, and sorry must mean change.
Well, absolutely, because the accident that you were involved, I don't want to call it an accident, it wasn't an accident.
Yeah, the language is very important. The language for these things has changed, and they are incidents. If somebody is killed by somebody driving, speeding, they're on drugs, they've been drinking...
completely avoidable, wasn't it? The bus mounted the pavement.
It was road rage.
Yeah.
Shocking.
He just went crazy. There was a white van behind him, honking the horn, and just ploughed onto the pavement.
So do you get a great sense of frustration when you've seen over the years that people involved in road crime, people who've been convicted of these offences, getting comparably very small sentences, or even being able to drive very quickly after they're released from prison as well?
Well, yeah, so I set up the Sarah Hope line to help people when terrible things have happened. You know, I had a lot of support from family and friends, and of course I've got a wonderfully supportive husband, but some people don't have that. So that's why I set up the line. You know, there's a lot of people in London from other countries. Their families are abroad. So it's very important to help people, but prevention is the best thing. And yes, it's terrible that the sentences are so short. You know, people are being killed in the most terrible ways. 4 people are probably going to die on UK roads today. 4 or 5 on average every single day. Hundreds more suffer life-changing injuries. This has got to stop. It's not... And, you know, we need to issue more bans, driving bans. People are getting their licences back after just a few years.
It seems absolutely astonishing. It's fantastic, the work.
Or they go to prison for sort of 2 or 3 years. There's no deterrent for dangerous driving. And what we need to do, what the government needs to do, what I'd like to campaign for, is for the government to spend so much more money on policing our roads, because the drivers have got to be scared of being caught. Because right now, people just think, oh, I can get away with it.
Exactly. I mean, it does seem like a complete Wild West on Britain's roads. I want to talk to you, too, about your incredible daughter, Pollyanna, who lost her leg in that horrific injury. But she's gone on to do such amazing things, hasn't she? How old is she now? Tell us about your family, because it is
she's
so
20.
Inspiring.
She's 20. And she's also got Barnaby and Sapphire, her brother and sister. You know, we've supported each other as a family, you know, because... when something bad happens in your family and somebody's injured, actually, Pollyanna, people talk about Pollyanna, but actually it affects the whole family.
Of course.
Which is why I do what I do with Transport for London and the Sarah Hope line, which is 10 years old on the 16th of February.
And how did you go about starting the support line? Because you must have, as you said, the wraparound of your family coming forward. How did you then try and transmit that experience to other families who need it?
Well, it took about 7 years, because I can tell you, when you're affected by a road crash, it's sudden, it's violent. You are trying to navigate the criminal justice system. You've got people coming in and out of your life. My daughter was in hospital, so it took about 7 years. And after I met TfL and Metroline, and they apologised, I said, you need a voice of kindness at the end of the phone so people can ring up, can just speak to somebody who's going to be kind to them, who's going to understand them. So the Sarah Hope, it's completely funded by TfL. Sometimes people get confused and they say it's my charity. Well, no, it's not my charity. It's funded by TfL. We provide private counselling so people don't have to wait months and months. We provide short-term financial support. We've repatriated bodies abroad. We pay for funerals. So it is the voice of kindness, and we look after the whole family, because actually the whole family needs support. Not just like with Pollyanna, of course, she needed a lot of physical support, a lot of emotional support. But, you know, my other children need support too.
Well, absolutely. I remember.
But Pollyanna's amazing. She is a dancer.
She's a dancer. She's fantastic. And your other children are just doing so
She's got a prosthetic ballet
too.
limb. She's just amazing.
Your whole family. I remember reading your husband Chris's article about it at the time, and you could see the strain it's taken on him and everyone around your whole family.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing the way you've taken that awful experience and turned it into something which can help so many people. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Real pleasure to have
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
A key member and a loved member of the GB News family. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you. Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Oh,
Right, it's coming up to 11:15, and still to come here on Saturday Morning Live, we'll be joined by the former Scotland rugby international Craig Chalmers ahead of the Calcutta Cup this afternoon.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello, well, it is finally settling down in the Iberian Peninsula, bringing parts of Portugal and Spain some dry and settled weather. It's also fairly settled for the Canary Islands throughout this weekend. Still some wet weather pushing into parts of northern Portugal. In fact, much of France will see some very wet weather. Also unsettled through the Mediterranean, Italy in towards Greece as well, seeing spells of showers throughout the weekend. It will turn warmer, though, into next week for Tenerife. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and it's a big day for rugby fans as Scotland take on England at Murrayfield today in the Calcutta Cup. Broadcaster Aidan McGee is here with us. Can you just tell us a little bit about why the Calcutta Cup is so important?
Well, look, Olivia, quite simply, it's England versus Scotland. It doesn't matter when or where they play. It's a big game anyway. The fact that it's round 2 of the Six Nations magnifies it all the further. How far have England really come? They've not been defeated since February the 1st last year when they were beaten by a very good Ireland team, albeit Ireland are slightly on the decline just now. They're in a state of kind of rebuilding, I would say. But then if I consider how consistent England have been, that's the first time they've ever, they've achieved anything like stability since they won the 2026 Nations. So we're talking back in the time of Eddie Jones, and we all know how his time ended. Scotland as well, I would say that difficult week last week, I would say, going to Italy, losing, underestimating Italy. We'll see what our guest says in just a moment. But nonetheless, a huge occasion today. England traditionally struggle at Murrayfield. And I'll tell you somebody who's going to tell us a little bit more about how they've struggled down the years, and that's the former Scotland international, Craig Chalmers. Craig, first of all, so I'm getting the right camera. Tell us what this occasion is going to be like at Murrayfield, first of all. What can the England players expect?
It'll be pretty vicious, I think. I think Scotland are obviously smarting from last weekend's defeat in Rome. England are on a roll. They've won 11, 12 games in the trot. So they came up here full of confidence. But I think only 2 players in the England team, I think Jamie George and Ellis Gench, are the only 2 players to have won at Murrayfield. So, it's for most of the team, it's going to be, it's going to be volatile. The Scottish fans, Scotland, England, it's going to be. It has to be. The Scottish guys have got to get themselves up from last week because they didn't produce last week, and they know that. But I think you'll see a reaction today.
I was reading in Sir Clive Woodward's column this morning in the Mail that he said it's so important from an England perspective that they play the game and not the occasion. How true do you think that's going to be today?
Yeah, it's very true. I think England have George Ford at number 10. I think, I'm a big fan of Finn Smith, the young lad from Northampton, and disappointed that he's not playing because he is a class player. But George Ford has been so good for England, and Borthwick stuck with him, quite rightly so. I think his coolness and calmness and direction, his kicking game is outstanding as well. He's going to be a massive person player for England today, but it's up front is where the game will be won and lost, and England probably are a little bit stronger up front than we are, a bit more physical, a bit bigger, so set piece, line out and scrum is crucial to how this game's going to go.
There's an acceptance as well, Craig, isn't there, that Scotland are better than they showed last week against Italy and Rome?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't believe how bad we were last week, especially the first 10, 15 minutes. The game was lost there and then. 2 soft tries. And in those conditions, when the rain came on, especially in the second half, it was very difficult to play the kind of game that we like to play. We'll try to play a fast game. Our backline, when it's firing, getting good ball, quick ball, is one of the best in the world. And the midfield of, Finn Russell, Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones, if these guys get firing, they'll be very difficult for the English backline to hold them. And I think, Johan van der Merwe was always, a lot of people were calling for him to come back because he scored so many tries against England over the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
but
good
he's
player.
not back. They've stuck with the back line that played in Italy. And that's a big call by Gregor. He's under a lot of pressure at the moment to get results. And hopefully today we can.
Craig, I want to talk to you about the changing England mentality, because there's been some reporting that the head coach is quoting from the cricket legend in Australia, Steve Smith, taking a changing mentality in their approach to the game. How significant do you think that is amid the change in personnel as well?
Yeah, mentality is a massive thing. You got to go in thinking you're, in a positive frame of mind. England for a while, they were very, very inconsistent, and I think Steve Borthwick was getting a little bit stick when he came in. People wanted him to leave, year and a half, 2 years ago, after he came in, because they weren't getting the results. So, he's now turned it around. He's got mentality. He's brought new players in, and they're slowly building. They're not playing amazing, fantastic rugby, but they're playing winning rugby. And, that's all that counts at this level. It's winning games. It's not all about being pretty and scoring nice tries. You've got to win games, and you've got to make key decisions at key times. And that's all to do with mentality.
Craig, I must wind things on a bit. I want a prediction from you before you go.
Yeah, listen, I'm Scottish, and I do think I can't see us playing anywhere nearly as bad as we did last week.
Quick prediction, Craig. Come on, give us a score. Win or lose.
25-23 to Scotland.
Brilliant. Thanks, Craig Chalmers. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much, Aidan McGee. Lots more coming up on Saturday Morning Live today. More reaction to that speech in Munich. Stay with us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there's plenty of sunshine this Valentine's Day, although it will be turning increasingly hazy as we start to see rain and snow arriving later. But it's all courtesy of this ridge of high pressure building in, but a weather front waiting out in the west to bring rain and snow later on in the day. But for the vast majority, we should see a good deal of sunshine, a bit more cloud across East Anglia, a few fleeting showers here, and more persistent rain across Shetland. But otherwise, like I mentioned, the sunshine will be turning increasingly hazy from the west as we go through the afternoon. But otherwise, for all of us, it is a colder day out there, highs of up to 6 or possibly 7 degrees. Now, as we head through Saturday evening, it's going to be chilly out there, especially across eastern Scotland as we start the evening. More rain persisting across Shetland, but the winds will start picking up out to the west. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning downhill. We'll have the risk of rain and some hill snow, accompanied by some strong southerly winds. Across the vast majority, though, of England and Wales, dry initially to start this evening, but the rain and hill snow will start moving through. So this band of rain and hill snow will continue to push in from the west. Again, we do have a Met Office snow and ice warning in force covering much of Scotland and northern England. Up to 10 to 15 centimetres is possible, mostly falling as rain towards the far south. But otherwise it is still chilly, but we will have those strong southerly winds. So it's an unsettled start to Sunday morning. Further spells of rain, especially across England and Wales. Across East Anglia, there is a risk of that turning a little bit wintry. Behind that into the afternoon, it is going to be a case of blustery showers. The showers merging to give longer spells of rain with the risk of hail and thunder. Mild in the south, we'll see highs of up to 11 degrees tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Make sure you don't miss the chance to grab an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, or even Sri Lanka. There's just 2 weeks left to enter. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 14th of February, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet. Now that means being bolder. It means putting away petty politics and short-term concerns. It means acting together.
Yes, speaking at the Munich Security conference this morning, the Prime Minister says the road ahead is straight and clear and that Britain must be ready to fight.
Yes, having a go at petty politics there, but he did take a swipe at reforming the Greens, but he said that after the Secretary of State for the US, Marco Rubio, was recognising the historic significance of the alliance between Europe and America that had saved the world from past threats, that it should continue to do so.
It is our preference, and it is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. For the United States and Europe, we belong together.
Elsewhere, the Home Office has been accused of lacking the resources to deliver Nigel Farage's pledge to deport 500,000 illegal migrants if he became Prime Minister, insiders have told GB News.
Well, despite plans for detention centres and expanded charter flights, sources say that the Home Office, which is already facing budget cuts, may not have the capacity to carry out Operation Restoring Justice.
And Peter Mandelson has been called to Congress to answer questions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But will he reveal all?
And it's Calcutta Cup Day at Murrayfield, Scotland hosting England in one of rugby's fiercest rivalries, with pride, history and Six Nations momentum all on the line.
Love is in the air as today marks Valentine's Day. Now, we all celebrate differently, from a cosy night in to an extravagant romantic getaway. We'll be hearing from locals in Britain's most romantic destination. Biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. Your romantic getaway weekend starts here. Some of you may celebrate Valentine's Day by watching Saturday Morning Live.
I do hope so.
I hope you are.
On your getaway.
Yeah, put your feet up. We've got loads to get through in this hour. I'm really looking forward to talking about that Home Office debate story, because it's being claimed that reformers' plans just cannot be done. A bit of a computer says no from critics of reform. It's sort of exactly the sort of story that I think the Reform Party would quite like, actually, having sources in the Home Office say that their plans aren't going to be able to be carried out.
I mean, it does sound incredibly defeatist, doesn't it? The Home Office has 51,000 members of staff altogether across the United Kingdom, and they're saying, or they're hinting to sources, that they wouldn't be able to carry out the agenda of an elected party were Nigel Farage to become Prime Minister. I mean, what's the point of a civil service? That is literally their one job.
Yeah, this country's governments in the past have pulled off extraordinary feats, but deporting illegal immigrants, apparently that's one step
Just
too
not
far.
possible.
No, can't do it, sorry. Let us know what you think to that, please. gbnews.com/your say to get in touch with us. We'll be reading your comments very closely as we go through all of the big stories this hour.
But before we do anything else, Bethany Elsey has all your news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3 minutes past 11. The Prime Minister has urged Europe to be ready to fight and do whatever it takes to protect our values. Addressing around 50 world leaders at the Munich Security Conference, Sir Keir Starmer said the Brexit days are gone, insisting there's no British security without Europe. He highlighted warnings that Russia could use military force against NATO by the end of the decade and insisted the UK does not seek conflict, but a lasting peace.
We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, if necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life. And as Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet. We are not the Britain of the Brexit years anymore. There is no British security without Europe, and no European security without Britain.
Sir Keir Starmer also urged Europe to let go of its overdependence on the United States after Donald Trump's recent threat to take over Greenland from NATO member Denmark. But the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told the summit America has no intention of abandoning the transatlantic alliance.
Our disagreements come from our profound sense of concern about a Europe with which we are connected, not just economically, not just militarily. We are connected spiritually, and we are connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive, because the 2 great wars of the last century serve for us as history's constant reminder that ultimately our destiny is and will always be intertwined with yours.
Let's go live now to Munich, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is speaking.
That Russian aggression brings, the challenges of modern war, but also for the constant effort to convince the world to fight for support, to defend your country's interests every single day, as Ukraine must do. The world is built on interests, and you have to work tirelessly to align interests and help partners see what this brings. And when you see what is coming, we will be able to convince those in power to act preventively, to stop the evil before it destroys everything. Right now you can see a visualization of one of Russia's attacks. Many of you were already here in Munich when this strike took place. Russia launched 24 ballistic missiles, 1 air-launched guided missile, and 200, can you imagine, 219 attack drones against our cities, Kyiv, Dnipro, Odessa. Just 1 attack, just 1 night. Our air defense used the missile that arrived from our partners just a few days earlier. They came on Sunday, it's true, and on Thursday night, the missiles were already protecting our skies. And that is just 1 night, but Russian attacks happen almost every every night in Ukraine, and at least once a week massive strikes. Still, Ukraine has endured 1,451 days of full-scale war, longer than anyone predicted. And I want you to understand the real scale of these attacks on Ukraine. As you can see, in just 1 month this January, we had, you see it, we had to defend against 6,000 attack drones. Most of them were Shahid drones, and 150 plus Russian missiles of different types, and more than 5,000 glide bombs. And it's like these every month. Imagine this over your own city, shattered streets, destroyed homes, schools built underground, and this is daily life in Ukraine because of course, because of Russia, for 4 long years. Russia uses many ballistic missiles and carries out combined attacks. Most of the strikes target our power plants and other critical infrastructure, and there is not a single power plant left in Ukraine that has not been damaged by Russian attacks, not one. But we still generate electricity, thanks to our people. And we have kept our system running thanks to physical protection of the facilities and thanks to everyone who helps us with air defense. Just as important, Ukraine still has power because of our people, thousands of workers who serve millions. And when I see our energy workers, our repair crews, rescue teams, I see something that is often missing in politics. Through dedication, the ability to work at 100%, to act immediately in a real emergency, not in a month, not in a year or 2, but they save lives here. They save lives now. All these years. And many politicians could learn and must, I think, must learn from ordinary rescuers, from ordinary repair crews, from ordinary electricians to act, how to act immediately. During this war, thank you. During this war, weapons evolve faster than political decisions meant to stop them. When the Iranian regime first gave Russia the Shahid drones, they were simple weapons. They could be shut down easily. Now the Shahid is different. It has a jet engine. It can fly at different altitudes. It can be guided by an operator in real time. And it can use Starlink to reach its target. It can even carry other drones, acting at the, how we say, mother drone for FPVs. War reveals forms of evil we did not expect, and the longer a war continues, the more resources the aggressor receives. The more dangerous the consequences becomes, the more dangerous the evolution of weapons and of war itself, and the evolution of Putin. And I remember how the full-scale war was seen in the first year. And we were told that support would continue, but not at the scale and speed needed for Ukraine to win, it's true, or for Russia to lose. And what did that mean? It meant time. The idea was that America could manage the pace of the war and the risk.
OK, we're listening to Volodymyr Zelensky speaking in Munich, but while he continues, we're just going to bring in now the defence editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox, who joins us now. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for joining us here on Saturday Morning Live. Interesting hearing from Zelensky, making an impassioned case about the support his country still needs, talking right now about the drone technology that Ukraine is enduring. Isn't it interesting? No reference to that in the speech from Sir Keir Starmer earlier. Do you get the sense that a lot of Western militaries aren't learning the lessons of this war in Ukraine and aren't really ready to step up with the gap that's being left by the United States?
Well, my reaction, Charlie, is a little bit more complex than that, rather surprisingly. That what Starmer's speech was astonishing. It was a Chomkin village, that is, facade with very little substance, a lot of abstract nouns, a lot of which we'd heard from him before. Park that. Now, Zelensky is being intriguing again. Natural communicator, looks exhausted. He is not giving up the fight. What he is pointing to is the flexibility of the war machine that he has to confront, and he has to have the same powers of innovation, of catching up, of keeping up with the new jet-driven drones that can move in multiple levels. They could be motherships as well, and they're guided by Starlink. Now, we know the Russians are having a problem with Starlink at the moment, but the message from Zelensky is you have got to be at least as agile as that, because whatever Russia is threatening is going to come with the same flexibility at you. It's very interesting that Starmer was offering yet more summits. Summits don't answer anything, and he's got to put real substance behind his defence policies if he really means it, and substance means money. I'll give you an instance. They've said, oh, we found 5 billion more for defence over the next year or so. Well, 3.5 billion, quite appropriately, has gone on housing alone. There's been no ammunition restocking. They are being told by their chiefs there are things that I'm seeing that they're looking at in terms of innovation, of leaping generations of new weapon systems. But the government, there's something in Whitehall, there's something in Starmer's Whitehall that is so reluctant to push the button and say, go on, go ahead and innovate.
He did talk about hard power, though. He talked about having to spend more quickly. I thought perhaps he was softening up his backbenchers, who traditionally have been more interested in spending on welfare than spending on defence. I thought he might be softening them up for a big defence announcement in the coming weeks. Was that your reading of it? Do you think we can expect something like that shortly?
Well, Olivia, sorry, I want to push back on you because you're so good at this. You understand in reading the political tea leaves so well, and something is going on. And by the way, thank you for your intervention earlier this morning. I think we were on together, and I think you really have depicted in the programmes this morning the difficulty that they have over defence. Basically, can I say, I don't want to be too crude. Starmer doesn't like defence. He doesn't like military. It's not his natural milieu. But at the moment, he is under pressure behind the scenes at things like Munich and the latest NATO summit. Britain, you are very, very deficient in deterrence. We talk about the nuclear deterrent, that's tied very much to America, but it's in conventional deterrence. We've got roughly about enough equipment, by one calculation, and it's not particularly up to date, to equip an army of 20,000 or less, and not 70,000. It's this kind of thing. They boast about their deals with Norway to build new frigates, and yet we're down to a destroyer force of about 7. That's today. But it's also tomorrow, which is what Zelensky is talking about when we come to deal with AI and autonomy, autonomous weapon systems, electronic warfare. And actually, these are the kinds of things which will cross from the strictly military sphere to the civilian sphere. Think if the organised crime really gets going on drone technology, on electronic warfare, where you can bring civilian air traffic and airports absolutely to a halt. We are in a new and very, very dangerous world, and I wish there would be real action and innovation to match all the talk about it.
OK, Robert Fox, Defence Editor of the Evening Standard, thank you very much for your complex analysis this morning, as ever. Right, let's move on now to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us in Munich. Catherine, thank you very much for bringing us all the latest from the security conference. But let's start, shall we, with the speech earlier from Marco Rubio, because he directed a lot of energy, a positive reaction to the history, as it were, of Europe, and how he wants the US and Europe to work together to secure that heritage, but also making comments about mass immigration, about some of the internal threats to Europe's security.
Yes, he did, and it's been very well received here. Huge contrast to what happened this time last year when the then new US Vice President J.D. Vance arrived and basically said, Europe, you've let your citizens down, you've let far too many immigrants in, it's destroying your culture and you're quashing free speech. Now, Marco Rubio did refer to the need to protect our amazing culture, paid tribute to Europe and, you know, the birthplace of international law and all the rest of it and culture, but did it in a much more supportive, emollient tone. So in a way gave a similar message, but in a very, very nice way. And he talked about the need to revitalize an old friendship, renew the greatest civilization in human history, that is Europe, he said. But he also said, we in America have got no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. I think there's the clue there. And he said we want Europe to be strong. They don't want us to be the sort of little sibling who tails along after the big guy America, just dependent on them. They want us to stand on our own 2 feet. And that is the message that I think finally Europe has received loud and clear. Now, Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU Commission, said it had taken some shock therapy. Well, you can say that again. They didn't wake up when Russia invaded Crimea. They had a wake-up call when Russia invaded Ukraine, though they never gave Ukraine enough to actually win that war. They had another wake-up call when Donald Trump was elected, and then finally, when just a few weeks ago he said America needs and wants Greenland and we're going to get it one way or another. So Europe is awake. Now we have a lot of rhetoric from the Prime Minister talking about the need to rearm, industrial renewal, build a joint European defence fund. The thing is that all takes money, and for all the rhetoric, the progress at which we're going to get to that promised 5% is very, very, very slow. So for all what the Prime Minister is saying, I'm not convinced that the reality yet quite supports the rhetoric.
Can I ask you too, Catherine, about that speech from Keir Starmer, where he made a couple of very direct pops at his rivals here in the UK, including reform. Now, Nigel Farage has reacted to that. He said that the Prime Minister is on borrowed time and said that in a desperate attempt to save his job, he has been attacking Reform UK. How do you think that speech from Keir Starmer has gone down in the UK, but also, of course, in the room where you're in? These people who don't have any interest at all in Reform UK or the Greens. Keir Starmer seems to be using the international stage to get his domestic message across.
Well, I must admit, when I got up this morning and saw that that was on the front page of the Times, I was quite surprised, because obviously we knew he was making a big speech. I thought, is this really the key takeaway? I think what it shows is that he's very worried, and well, he might do. He's the least popular Prime Minister ever, as far as we know. There's that crucial by-election that Labour look like they may lose. Then there's local elections, which are pretty much expected to be a bloodbath, and there are very many people who really want the Prime Minister's job. So the fact that he's chosen to take a pop at Reform and the Greens, because Labour has been eaten alive on both sides now, I think is significant. In terms of the reaction here, there is an awareness that he is in trouble at home. I think there is you can give us these promises, but are you going to be around to deliver them? Let's see.
OK, thank you very much, Catherine Forster, live for us there in Munich. We've also heard from the Lib Dems. They've said that Starmer is engaging in meaningless blather in his speech this morning.
Well, very different line from the Lib Dems. They were so emollient towards Labour during the general election, but all that has changed now. Well, in other news, the Home Office does not have the resources to deliver Nigel Farage's promise of deporting 500,000 illegal migrants in the first Parliament of a Reform UK government. That's what insiders have told GB News.
Now, Mr Farage Farage's party has vowed to identify, detain and remove up to 600,000 asylum seekers and illegal migrants from Britain within 5 years, in what has been billed as the most radical immigration overhaul in modern British political history. We're joined now by the former Immigration Minister, Kevin Foster. Kevin, good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. What do you make of this attack coming from in government against Farage's plans? It seems to me a very defeatist attitude, basically saying this can't be done. In a sense, we have to just put up with incredible levels of illegal migration and people just being allowed to stay in Britain.
Yeah, it is a defeatist attitude. And we've seen before where we see sort of briefings behind the scenes that things can't be done or can possibly done. But actually, it is possible to do what Nigel Farage is talking about. The Home Office already is removing about 35,000 people a year. That's nudging up towards 40,000. And I suspect if a Reform government came in, they'd use the current deportation figures that the current government uses, even though they include some voluntary removal. So you're not talking a scale of like 10 here. You're talking about potentially upping this by about 50 to 60%. So it's still big. Where the challenges come, and where I think Reform do need to talk a little bit more about, is the choices they would make to do that. So you can see, for example, what President Trump's administration did, where they came in, sorting the southern border was their top priority. And that meant choices across things like trade, foreign affairs, and, for example, how things like domestic courts work, including Parliament. What is going to be their priorities? It also means redeploying Home Office resources like decision-making teams. So I suspect things like their policy to scrap indefinite leave to remain and get everyone to reapply, I can imagine they'd have to take a view, well, is that going to be the top priority, or focusing resource on delivering this? And then we get on to choices like, for example, saying they're going to have military bases and more detention capacity to deliver this. Well, where would those bases be? Because there's only so many former airfields you can use. They're in places like Lincolnshire. And at the same time, you've got local Reform campaigners telling everyone that those sites would not be used by Reform for illegal migrants. Well, clearly, they're going to have to go somewhere. And that's where some of the more difficult choices come politically as they approach a general election, have to be up front where some of those places would be.
Well, thank you very much, former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster, for joining us on Saturday Morning Live this morning. I mean, very interesting to hear. He does think that it is possible. Well, then why didn't the Conservatives do it? They talked about stopping the boat so many times. If it was possible to move 600,000 migrants in one go, surely they had the mandate to do it. And why didn't they?
The mandate, but perhaps, Olivia, not the political will. Right, it's 24 minutes past 11, and coming up on Saturday Morning Live, Lord Mandelson has been summoned to appear before Congress to testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
But next, could pubs potentially be turned into takeaways under new Labour plans? This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by political commentators Andy Williams and Jennifer Powers. Andy, interesting line from Keir Starmer today. He says that he's ended the week much stronger than he started it. I mean, that's a pretty low base, isn't it? There was a coup at the beginning of the week to get rid of him. He couldn't really be much weaker. But what do you make of that?
Only a true short-term thinker could say that, and that is absolutely what Keir Starmer is. Yes, he is safe for now, because the coup that could have been on Monday didn't materialise, but he's only safe till May. And I'm pretty convinced, and I don't necessarily relish this, but I'm pretty convinced that on May the 8th, the day after the local elections, it's going to be game over for him. He's definitely not stronger than he was last week, because he's lost his brain, which is Morgan McSweeney. The man who had the policy thinking, who had a direction of travel, has gone. What does he think now?
And Jennifer, we've also heard the Prime Minister speaking at the end of his speech there in a sort of a discussion on the stage, saying that my party and my government is completely unified on the question of Ukraine and defence and security. Is that going to hold when he goes to his party and asks for more money? I think this claim that they're completely unified will very quickly fall apart.
Well, indeed. And is he going to ask for more money? I mean, that's what's not clear from the speech. It's big on rhetoric about needs to face up to the reality of geopolitics, the need to rearm. But is he going to make the tough choices domestically that would need to happen to enable this rearmament?
And obviously, it's a really tough time to make those difficult choices domestically. It's the beginning of recess. That means that politicians are going to be going back to their constituencies. Their constituents are going to be talking to them about the cost of living crisis. There's a cold snap this week. Their gas bills are going to be going up. They're going to be worried about the schools for their children. All of these really important domestic issues. Those constituents will be wanting more spending from government. They probably won't be that interested, won't be talking that much about defence. And so it's quite a hard sell for Keir Starmer.
I think it is a hard sell, but it comes back to you've got to make the argument and you've got to frame it in the right way. And when you have Russia invading a sovereign European country, this is not a country far, far away. This has serious implications for global security and for European security. And particularly, and this is not a comment on whether you love him or whether you hate him, but we don't have a reliable ally in the White House anymore. We have somebody who is completely his own man, who is America first, and the special relationship, so-called, doesn't hold as it used to. So we're in different times, and they've got to make the argument that we need to, defence is first and foremost.
I have to say, Jennifer, I almost felt a bit sorry for Keir Starmer at some point this week, because it's so clear that his parliamentary party are desperate for him to do more of the stuff that makes him and the government more unpopular. We heard one MP on the radio waves earlier in the week saying, oh, actually, we need more female representation in the party, talking about identity politics at the time when the country is seriously struggling. It's no surprise, perhaps, that he's having such a tough time trying to get any positive changes through, and that's what he has to get through.
Yeah, I mean, the quote that we started the segment with around him claiming that he ends the week stronger than he started. I mean, it's just laughable. I mean, here we have someone who's lost their chief of staff, their director of communications, you know, sacked at great expense. The head of the civil service. I mean, this is someone who's lost collective solidarity amongst the cabinet because this noise is off right, left and centre.
And that's pretty much what Nigel Farage has said this morning in response to Keir Starmer's speech. He said that in a desperate attempt to keep his job, Keir Starmer is attacking Reform UK. Do you think that is how that speech came across to viewers back home in the UK, if they're worrying?
Well, I think it will depend on the recipient. I think a huge number will. I mean, this is a man who's basically taking a nice holiday to Germany to avoid the fact that soon he will be out of a job. I mean,
I think that's a bit unfair, actually, Jennifer.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of comment on the amount of time Starmer spends abroad, but actually, every Prime Minister says it's underestimated and underpriced the amount of time you have to spend on foreign affairs. It is really important.
I completely agree with it.
You know, I think it's a good use of his time on a Saturday morning to be at the Munich Security Conference.
I'm just saying it's an escape from the reality of his life, which is he is not long for this world politically. Yeah. And as you said earlier this morning, from May, I think there's got to be a very, very strong likelihood that he's tossed out of number 10.
Right, you two, it would be remiss of us to end the paper review section without reflecting on the day it is today, which is, of course, Valentine's Day. But the Mail on page 15, they're saying that most of us are faking it. That is, of course, our appreciation of Valentine's Day. They've got some polling here saying that 44% claim the occasion is just a washout, 38% fake their delight with gifts and gestures.
As a dual citizen, I feel some responsibility because I feel like America and Hallmark probably commercialised this holiday.
How dare you?
Yes.
Ruthless capitalists.
Yes, I mean, my husband and I do exchange Valentine's cards, but I ask him every year not to buy overpriced roses. And I don't like going out for meals on Valentine's because you get this set menu.
Yeah. Go out on Friday the 13th.
We actually had dinner booked tonight and we cancelled it because they put such a narrow set menu in place, and we were like, we'd quite like to choose our food, actually. I hope I'm not breaking any confidences by saying there's a large bunch of flowers for Nana Okoye in the green room. So if she doesn't know already...
They do look beautiful. Even
if any of our viewers would like to send some flowers to us, do feel...
Or listeners, we appreciate the radio lovers too. We don't discriminate. Mark White had a card from a secret admirer.
You got a lovely Christmas present, though, this year. You get a nice dish.
Yeah, I know. Lovely people get in touch.
Lovely viewers. Thank you.
All right, Jennifer Powers, Andy Williams, thank you so much for your time this morning. We've very much enjoyed your company. Loads more coming up on the programme, but let's go ahead now to Bethany Elsey for all your latest news headlines.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is urging Europe to be ready to fight and do whatever it takes to protect our values. Addressing around 50 world leaders at the Munich Security Conference, Keir Starmer said there's no British security without Europe.
We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, if necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life. And as Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet.
Thousands of people in England with severe mental health problems are being recruited for a major study to develop personalised treatments on the NHS. And Matt Weston has made history, becoming the first British man to win gold in the skeleton at the Winter Olympics in Italy, also securing Team GB's first medal of this Games. You're up to date. I'll be back at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thanks, Bethany. Well, coming up, are you one of the people who made a last-minute booking for Valentine's for tonight? We'll be talking about some of the desperate and wonderful attempts of demonstrating our love that are going to be going around.
Male attempts, I suspect. We'll also be talking in very different news. Peter Mandelson has been summoned to Congress to give evidence on Jeffrey Epstein. If Keir Starmer was hoping that the Mandelson problem was going away, I think he's got another thing coming. All of that after a break. Good morning.
morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there's plenty of sunshine this Valentine's Day, although it will be turning increasingly hazy as we start to see rain and snow arriving later. But it's all courtesy of this ridge of high pressure building in, but a weather front waiting out in the west to bring rain and snow later on in the day. But for the vast majority, we should see a good deal of sunshine, a bit more cloud across East Anglia, a few fleeting showers here, and more persistent rain across Shetland. But otherwise, like I mentioned, the sunshine will be turning increasingly hazy from the west as we go through the afternoon. But otherwise, for all of us, it is a colder day out there, highs of up to 6 or possibly 7 degrees. Now, as we head through Saturday evening, it's going to be chilly out there, especially across eastern Scotland as we start the evening. More rain persisting across Shetland, but the winds will start picking up out to the west. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning downhill. We'll have the risk of rain and some hill snow, accompanied by some strong southerly winds. Across the vast majority, though, of England and Wales, dry initially to start this evening, but the rain and hill snow will start moving through. So this band of rain and hill snow will continue to push in from the west. Again, we do have a Met Office snow and ice warning in force covering much of Scotland and northern England. Up to 10 to 15 centimetres is possible, mostly falling as rain towards the far south. But otherwise it is still chilly, but we will have those strong southerly winds. So it's an unsettled start to Sunday morning. Further spells of rain, especially across England and Wales. Across East Anglia, there is a risk of that turning a little bit wintry. Behind that into the afternoon, it is going to be a case of blustery showers. The showers merging to give longer spells of rain with the risk of hail and thunder. Mild in the south. We'll see highs of up to 11 degrees tomorrow. Bye-bye.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
To Saturday Morning Live. Now, Lord Mandelson has been summoned to appear before Congress to testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, in a letter issued to the former US ambassador, 2 Democratic members of the House Oversight Committee said it's clear he possessed extensive social and business ties to Epstein and that he holds critical information.
However, Congress has no legal power to compel Lord Mandelson to appear before it under oath, as he's a foreigner living overseas, and it's unclear whether he will accept the very kind invitation.
Well, joining us now to discuss this is US journalist Chapman Bell. So what will Peter Mandelson do about this? Presumably it would look awful if he just didn't go along.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be the first to not go along. I mean, Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, was also asked to testify and didn't respond to the request. They've given him a deadline of the 27th of February to respond. We'll see. I mean, as you pointed out, they can't legally compel him at this point. However, the House Oversight Committee is one of the strongest committees in Congress and does have a broader range of subpoena power. Now, that won't work if he's here, but if he were to travel to the United States, they could issue him a subpoena, which could get more traction into legally compelling him to testify to the committee.
And Chapman, we've also seen Ghislaine Maxwell being subpoenaed or appearing in front of one of these Congress Oversight Committees. Didn't say anything, though, and that's a bit of a risk. They can appear, but then just do nothing.
She pleaded the fifth, which you can do, and, did also say that she would be willing to give information in exchange for a deal. Now, that gets into murky waters, I think, if you are offering to exonerate people in exchange for immunity or release.
I mean, Mandelson has already gone. He has almost brought down the Prime Minister as he's gone. But it sounds from this as though there is probably going to be more information about the extent of his ties with Jeffrey Epstein. How much more damage can be done?
Well, I think this is what's interesting with this release of files. There's been no smoking gun in the sense that people were expecting a big bombshell. But what is clear is people are able to tie the dots together and make a bigger narrative, and there are missing pieces, and that's what people are now, Congress is looking for, are trying to fill in these missing pieces. You know, obviously any relationship with Epstein does not mean you were criminally involved with him, but they are looking for ways in which people can maybe give more insight into his dealings and his operations. Now, what's interesting is Lord Mandelson has said in the past he was not aware of Epstein and any criminal wrongdoing, though he did admit that his relationship with him went on far too long. However, now he himself is being investigated for potential criminal activity in the release of documents to Epstein when, you know, in government. So there is a lot beyond the sex trafficking aspect of Epstein's criminality, and that is what is now involved in potential financial criminality.
Yes, the leaking potentially of sensitive intelligence or information about financial markets, upcoming political decisions. Do you think that this Democratic committee is going to be assessing to what extent that's happened in the United States as well?
Well, I mean, it is interesting, we've spoken about this before, that so far the people who have fallen due to their relationship are all Brits. I mean, you had Ghislaine Maxwell, you of course have Lord Mandelson.
Andrew as well.
Yeah. Andrew as well. I mean, you know, Keir Starmer's head has been close to the block the last few days and bringing it down. And there's also a lot of suggestion that Andrew's involvement with Epstein is also really hurting the royal family as a whole, the monarchy. So that said, it's also important to point out, I think, that there are the victims as well who have suffered through Epstein. It's not just about those who were involved with him. But I think they are looking at this latest release of files. It's always going to be the tip of the iceberg. You get more and more information, and you keep digging in deeper. And there's a lot of information to go through, and there's still a lot of information out there that you haven't seen. You know, what I find interesting is there was one U.S. congressman who did in the committee with Pam Bondi the other day, asking why Andrew had not been prosecuted, because he put up the picture of Andrew over this woman whose identity has been shielded, and he tried to suggest that since her identity had been shielded,
she was a victim.
She must be a victim. Therefore, there is a criminal link here. There is a lot that people are looking into now to try to find out how much he affected a lot of leaders around the world.
Well, as you say, Chapman Bell, it is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to dig through, and I think so much more damage in the public domain to be still yet to come.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time.
For joining us.
Cheers. Right, coming up here on Saturday Morning Live, we'll be joined by Robert Walton and Donna Ida to hear all about how you can enjoy Valentine's at home, especially if you're a bit late to organising your plans.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello, well, it is finally settling down in the Iberian Peninsula, bringing parts of Portugal and Spain some dry and settled weather. It's also fairly settled for the Canary Islands throughout this weekend. Still some wet weather pushing into parts of northern Portugal. In fact, much of France will see some very wet weather. Also unsettled through the Mediterranean, Italy in towards Greece as well, seeing spells of showers throughout the weekend. It will turn warmer, though, into next week for Tenerife. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We were looking earlier at the coin that the Australian Mint have minted, a commemorative coin of the late Queen Elizabeth. Everybody is noting that even though it's selling apparently like hot cross buns for $100, it doesn't look like her at all. I think we've got the picture and we can show you. But
I can see
one of our viewers, lovely viewers, has texted in already and said, she looks like Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yeah.
She does, doesn't she?
She does a little bit.
She doesn't look like the Queen.
I mean, I can see how it is the Queen, but it's because it's face on, and it's you don't get the sort of depth of it in a way. So she just looks rounder, flatter.
Yes, I'd say that.
Whereas
I'd say so.
It's not a coin that's going to be used as money. What do you call it? It's not
legal tender.
Legal tender.
Oh, is it not legal tender?
No, it's just a commemorative coin. So I suppose instead of doing it the traditional way of just a profile pic, they've gone for something a bit, well, more personality, a bit warmer.
They've given her a funny grin as well.
Very odd mouth.
Didn't coins used to like that used to be legal tender though?
They can be. It depends where you get them.
Right.
Depends. I mean, because sometimes they do ones that are minted in Jersey and things that you get over here, which you can't spend. But some of them you can. I mean, if you get the commemorative coins over here from the Royal Mint, then you can technically spend them, but people aren't obliged to take them.
I've been to a branch of the Royal Mint.
Have you? Did you nick anything?
No, of course I didn't.
I would have done.
Well, Piers Pottinger is with us actually here in the studio as well, and he's just sort of said, actually, it looks a bit more like Les Dawson.
Yep.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay. Because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Saturday Morning Live with Olivia and Charlie.
Happy Valentine's Day. We all know that we celebrate it differently, don't we? Some have a cosy night in, or a meal out, or some people take a weekend away. I hope if you are having a weekend away, you've taken us with you on the radio as well. Some of you also get involved with an extravagant gift, or is that rather troubling polling in the Mail, isn't there, Olivia, that a lot of people feign happiness about the gifts they're giving on
only
Valentine's
44%. I think that's quite encouraging.
56 are happy. Actual genuine happiness.
I think that's lovely.
Got to take the positives where we can.
Well, we're joined now by one very happy couple here to reveal all their tips and tricks. British chef and restaurateur Robert Walton and the Jean Queen and designer Donna Ida. This looks like an amazing setup. What are you doing there with the dog as well? Tell us all about it.
It's our picnic.
It's our Valentine's Day picnic.
We tend to we don't actually go out for dinner on Valentine's Day, and actually we never have. We've been together nearly 20 years, and we tend to just eat at home and just do nice cozy things together. Go for a walk, and today we're having a picnic, and we're going to see Wuthering Heights.
Oh, lovely!
And I've got
How
some
very
champagne.
Oh, champagne! Oh, goodness me!
Look at
this
this
is the way to live.
Look at this guy. So my wife doesn't drink, so I've got non-alcoholic, so specially for her.
Oh.
But you've got some alcoholic for you as well.
And I've also got another one that's alcoholic.
Robert, I'd expect nothing less. Very good. King of hospitality.
Exactly. Always has to have champagne at the ready.
I'm just trying to work out whether I should open it whilst we're here or not.
Yeah, I reckon you should.
It might be a bit dangerous. And we've got some little snacks.
We've got some bread and cheese. We've got a couple of our chihuahuas with us, taking them for a walk later. You can probably hear this one panting. He's not happy. There's so much panting going on. Look at that.
He's delighted to be on GB News.
You've got a couple of your chihuahuas with you. How many chihuahuas do you have altogether?
We have 5 chihuahuas.
5 chihuahuas.
And we have 3 Shiba Inus, so we have 8 dogs.
8 dogs, just the 8.
Just the 8. I don't know how we... Yeah, well...
We're not walking all of them at once.
We just take them on. We walk them in batches, but we ended up when we got to 8. Robert said, "Please, can we just
cut back a touch?" Yeah,
exactly. Can we just no more just at the moment, darling? So I said, "Okay, that's fine." So
we can't get them in the car.
No. Exactly, it's too much.
Well, it does look like a wonderful car. Something of a love seat setup there with the chilled champagne supplies in the middle. I think you said you're having an evening in tonight. So you're not going for the Valentine's meal out, but are you being chauffeured somewhere exciting today, Robert?
Well, I'm probably chauffeuring.
Good man.
So it's a bit like when we arrive somewhere, they tend to don't bother with me and they open the door for Donna. So that's a proper Valentine's Day setup. I just sort of wander around, and I ought to put a cap on, really, shouldn't I? Really, it's
the way it should be. It's great sitting in the back. I've got the dogs, and I'm being I just like to. I can instruct from the back.
That sounds about right. And you're cooking this meal tonight. Who's going to cook? Robert, do you do it, or do you get a night off?
I'm going to cook.
And what are you cooking?
No. So we're going to do on Valentine's Day. There are so many things, and I've tried so many things with Donna. But basically, why don't we just do exactly what she likes, which is steak and chips. So I'm doing amazing steak
with that.
With fresh chips. Fresh chips are the best.
That makes them
2 or 3 times frying. The sort of twice fried, 3 fried. So we're doing it that way. So they're crispy and gorgeous and salty. And a steak that I'll do quite rare, and Donnie will have sort of medium to medium.
Kind of well. Look, I'm Australian. I like it well done. But also the big thing is always like, do enough chips. Chips.
Yeah. It's always
that
more
sounds
chips.
wonderful. I'm very jealous. My husband's making me a lamb curry with the lamb that I cooked last night.
Right, Robert
lovely.
and Donna, it's been lovely to speak to you this morning. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Thank you so much. And that's all from us here at Saturday Morning Live. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. But don't go anywhere, because next up is Eamon Holmes as a special treat with the weekend. But first, here's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there's plenty of sunshine this Valentine's Day, although it will be turning increasingly hazy as we start to see rain and snow arriving later. But it's all courtesy of this ridge of high pressure building in, but a weather front waiting out in the west to bring rain and snow later on in the day. But for the vast majority, we should see a good deal of sunshine, a bit more cloud across East Anglia, a few fleeting showers here, and more persistent rain across Shetland. But otherwise, like I mentioned, the sunshine will be turning increasingly hazy from the west as we go through the afternoon. But otherwise, for all of us, it is a colder day out there, highs of up to 6 or possibly 7 degrees. Now, as we head through Saturday evening, it's going to be chilly out there, especially across eastern Scotland as we start the evening. More rain persisting across Shetland, but the winds will start picking up out to the west. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning downhill. We'll have the risk of rain and some hill snow, accompanied by some strong southerly winds. Across the vast majority, though, of England and Wales, dry initially to start this evening, but the rain and hill snow will start moving through. So this band of rain and hill snow will continue to push in from the west. Again, we do have a Met Office snow and ice warning in force covering much of Scotland and northern England. Up to 10 to 15 centimetres is possible, mostly falling as rain towards the far south. But otherwise it is still chilly, but we will have those strong southerly winds. So it's an unsettled start to Sunday morning. Further spells of rain, especially across England and Wales. Across East Anglia, there is a risk of that turning a little bit wintry. Behind that into the afternoon, it is going to be a case of blustery showers. The showers merging to give longer spells of rain with the risk of hail and thunder. Mild in the south. We'll see highs of up to 11 degrees tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There There's only 2 weeks remaining to see how you could win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, we could be sorting out your summer with an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000, courtesy of Riviera Travel. You'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture,